Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U movement. I am B, and I'm kind of reveling in a little bit of awe today at what I've managed to accomplish in 6.5 years. Because it's nothing short of miraculous. And I wouldn't have been able to do it, definitely not without God, without divine intervention, without this insane twin flame journey. It's remarkable to me. Yesterday, I went for the first time ever in my 53 years to a very large social gathering without any substances. And when I mean any substances, I mean any. In the last 6.5 years, I have quit alcohol. I have quit cannabis. I have quit tobacco, which was a big one for me. I have quit sugar. I have quit pharmaceuticals, specifically antidepressants. I was on Cymbalta most recently. Before that, I had been on Paxil and Wellbutrin and a whole bunch of other ones meant to help me with my major depressive disorder or my general anxiety disorder. I put those in quotations because I don't believe in them. I believe what I've always had is trauma. And those symptoms were a result of the abuse and the adoption that I had suffered as a child. And when they attempted to diagnose me with agoraphobia, I was like, yeah, no. You people don't know what you're doing over there. You really don't. Perhaps you should read a book by Gabor Mate, is my philosophy for the psychological department. Now, I'm not saying all people in psychology, it's not a black and white thing. There are very highly trained people that are trauma-informed in the psychological community that are familiar with the works of Gabor Mate and Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine and Pete Walker. And if they're not, then they're not a good counselor. Sorry, that's my opinion. So if you're looking for trauma-informed counseling other than myself in your local area of somebody to go to, please make sure that the first question you ask is, are you trauma-informed and have you studied any of Gabor Mate's teachings or Bessel van der Kolk's or anything else? Because if they don't know what complex post-traumatic stress disorder is, they can't help you. And if they're just handing out diagnoses and pharmaceuticals, that's never going to lead you to a cure. That will lead you to a decrease in symptoms, which is what I'm, talking a lot about today in this particular video, which may help you tolerate staying in abusive situations, but it won't cure you of anything. None of these meds are meant to cure you of anything, right? So my list goes on because I was talking about the things that I had quit and gone to this event without any, as well, sacred medicines, microdosing, magic mushrooms, was something I did for a while. Caffeine and sugar. Sugar is the most powerful drug of them all. Very socially acceptable, and people don't think of it as a drug, even though it is, because it stimulates the exact same area of your brain as cocaine, and it's as addictive as cocaine because it gives you a dopamine. It fires your dopamine in your brain up. And so I went yesterday to the BUMI Festival in Ontario, Canada, where it's kind of like a hippie festival, yoga movement, really inspired by the Persian culture. I didn't know that that was part of it, but it was. So there was a lot of really Persian influence, which was very cool. And I did it stone cold sober. I did it totally clean. I also did it totally unmasked. And as an autistic person that's been masking my entire life because I didn't realize I was autistic until a couple years ago, I would have used, not just social masking, but physical masking, if I'm going to a rock concert, you'd better be sure I'm going to get the thick black cat eye out, and I'm going to do my hair a certain way, and I'm going to wear a certain outfit that's going to help me blend in with the people. And so I went completely unmasked. My new thing, my new fashion at the present moment in time is no labels, no like imagery kind of thing. I'm really reducing that. Just plain Jane, just me. I don't want my clothes to necessarily speak for me anymore. I just want to be comfortable in them. So natural fabrics, loose fitting clothes, and much more modest than I've ever worn in my life. My new favorite neckline is a boat neck, and that's there were decades that my favorite neckline was like, woo, how much cleavage can I show? Because even clothes are a way to gain social acceptability or become attractive and alluring to people. So all of this, all of these substances, if you add them all together, I wasn't like out of control in any one particular thing, except for maybe the smoking. But because I was a social drinker, I primarily used substances as a means to control my fear, my terrifying fear of humans. Yeah. So I was never afraid to leave my house. I was afraid to leave my house and see people. Because when you bump into people, you talk to them, and social interaction was always incredibly difficult for multiple reasons. One, because I am an autistic person and my communication is blunt, to the point, and honest, and many other people that are non-autistic or not on the spectrum speak in riddles and speak in innuendo, and it's never clear like what they mean. There's been so many times that I'm like, what are they saying? Like I need a Google Translate to like figure out what neurotypical is saying when they ask you to do something in a subtle way that isn't really asking, it's more alluding. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Just tell me what you fucking want or don't want, and then I don't have to be so confused. And then on the opposite, I'll say exactly what I want or exactly what I need. And when I do present these needs, they perceive me as being like something different than what I'm saying. Because if I'm saying, I need quiet, for example, they're thinking I'm alluding to the fact that they're too noisy. It's not what I've said. Do you know what I mean? There's always like a twist, and so that causes a lot of conflict. And social interaction with humans has been, oh my God, so challenging. And, I am human. I may be neurospicy. I may wave a freak flag. I may be a little bit different than other people, but I'm still human, and I still have human needs. And those human needs are social acceptance, connection. My very needs as a child, I required connection. And because I was raised in such a dysfunctional and toxic household, the only way that I could get connection was to conform, twist, fawn, stay in a constant state of hypervigilance and people please, because otherwise I wouldn't get my needs met, to the point where I would die. If we don't have social connection and social acceptance, we will actually die. And I've told the story before. I don't know if I've said it recently, but when I was a kid, I would get raged at by my mother. So there would be the autistic thing that would happen. I would observe cruel behavior, and I would call it out, because being autistic, I've got this justice autism, if you guys know all about this. It's like your entire nervous system gets highlighted to recognizing things that are unethical, cruel, unkind, and it just makes like everything in me stands on end. So when she would be raging at me for any number of reasons, I would get hysterical. I would respond in hysterics. I'm talking like 3, 4, 5, right? And I would stand and shout at her going, "You're so mean. You're so mean." And That didn't go very well for me to express, because my needs, I was trying to express my needs to, please don't be mean. I need my mother to not be mean to me and not be a bully. And so here I'm trying to express this in my 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old self. And the result was, in expressing myself, I would get hit. And so the pants would go down and I would get handprints on my butt. And then stage 2 of the punishment process was to be sent to my room and be in isolation. And for an adoptee to be pushed away when what they need is to be held close, that was virtual torture. And so in my room, I was still trying to express my needs. And I would write these little notes to my mother that said things like, I hate you, you're so mean. And because that, I didn't have the language to be able to say, can we sit and discuss how you choose to communicate, and can potentially go to a family counselor and learn some better communication skills? I didn't have that capacity when I was little. Nobody does. So I would send these letters out, and she kept them. They were her little souvenirs. She kept them my entire life, and she had them in her, and she used to fawn over them. They were like, they brought her joy. And then, because I was experiencing so much rage, corporal punishment, rejection, and then ridicule would be the next phase of the journey, where she would ridicule me at the dining room table and get the rest of the family members to ridicule me for my bad behavior or laugh at me. So I would run away quite frequently to my garage, and it was a split garage, and like old built, I don't know, 1950s or something like that, like a really old plank boards, you know, like it wasn't a fancy built into your house. It was uninsulated. It wasn't heated. It had cracks. It had spiders, which I was terrified of spiders. So to go hang out with spiders was like something to say. And I would hide out in there because that was the farthest I could run. I didn't have the capacity as a young person to get an apartment and to move to safe people and get a job and provide for myself. And so I would sit in the garage in the middle of winter in Canada, which is bloody cold, and I would shake and shake and shake. So my nervous system is getting imprinted with fear that if I don't go and conform to the social expectations within this house, I am going to die. Because, even as a young child, you know what death is. And so ultimately, I would have to go back into my home. And so my nervous system from a very young age was imprinted with bullying and ridicule and rage and hostility, and I had to accept that. There was no discussion about it. There was no getting your needs met. So throughout my life, trying to communicate how I felt or what I needed in any given situation was insanely difficult. Not something that I was ever taught how to do. So instead, I quickly learned coping mechanisms so that I could survive in community, in social situations. And so first that became smoking at age 15. Well, before that was masking. I learned to shut the fuck up, is what I learned to do. And after the masking came the smoking, where I learned to suck down all of my insecurities, all of my feelings, especially at this stage you're in high school and social interaction and community is very important. And so I needed to find ways to adapt. Okay. So back in the day, you couldn't do things like stim, which I do now, although I used to do this all the time, or bite my fingernails, or, those kinds of stims were kind of socially acceptable. People didn't call you weird, although I got called weird a lot. And so smoking became something that was so huge in my life because it's a physical stim. It's also an oral stim. It's also the ability to suck down all of my emotions into my heart chakras. So anytime that I was feeling nervous, insecure around a boy or even around women, because I was bullied quite severely in school. And so that became my first. That alcohol shortly followed it, because alcohol and social interaction became synonymous as like necessary. If you're going to socialize, you need alcohol. Now, was I a good drinker? No, I wasn't a good drinker. I wasn't like, a couple glasses and that would just slightly numb me so that I can just like slide by. One quickly turned into the whole bottle, and I was a sloppy drunk. Binge drinking, party, dancing on tables, became kind of what I was synonymous with in my young teens and 20s was, party girl archetype. That put me in a really bad place, especially when it came to men, because I was easily taken advantage of and put myself into some very, very bad situations. More times than not, I was in some really, really bad situations. And some of those situations I suffered severe consequences for, because I was raped multiple times. But alcohol was the only way I could interact with humans on a social level. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. It gave me not only the liquid courage, it repressed the insecurity, the terror, the fear of being ridiculed, the fear of, because in a drunk state, I would ridicule myself. I learned that if I just crack jokes at my own expense, then it lowers everybody else's like ego, and then they are laughing too. So it's easier to be the butt of the jokes and like make them yourself. And then people find you funny. And I could handle that. Drunk and funny, drunk, sloppy, and funny was what worked for me. Because I didn't have other tools. I had never learned the tools in a young age. And so then along my awakening path, I've had to let go of all of these tools. And, that includes the tool that is pharmaceuticals. And so I want to talk about pharmaceuticals for a minute, because I have been on and off antidepressants since the age of about 19 or 20. And a lot of that was intertwined with relational traumas, specifically romantic relationships. So where alcohol was social relationships and smoking was all relationships, even work relationships. Got to go for my smoke break. Had bad customers. Had a fight with the chef. So smoking was all relationships. Drinking was social relationships, and pharmaceuticals was romantic relationships. How I could tolerate being in a romantic relationship and repress myself enough within this construct to tolerate being married or living with a man. I've had many long relationships through the years. I was married twice, and I lived with 2 other men. So in those constructs, it was very difficult, because I didn't know how to ask to have my needs met. And I didn't know how to have emotions. So I'd get more and more depressed as I lost myself in a relationship. And ultimately, I would go to a doctor and say, I'm really depressed, but we're not looking at the relationship. When you go to a doctor, they don't ask you about your relationship. They don't ask you about your history in relationship. They don't ask you about the modeling of relationship that you had, your mother, your father, the relationship there. And so, I'm getting diagnosed. It's me. I'm the problem, right? And in one aspect, that's true. I'm the one with the trauma, so it is my problem. But it's my problem within the construct of a relationship. So pharmaceuticals became my way to tolerate being dumped, or a breakdown of a relationship, which was very traumatizing for me. To breakups were not like, easy. Some people can go through a breakup and sure, they're sad and, when they take time and then they get over it. For me, it was devastation. To me, it was a flashback to being in the garage, not consciously, not in my mind, but in my nervous system. It was a flashback to being in the garage, shaking, thinking I'm going to die, right? So because that was the initial program. The initial program says, if you break from your people, you will die. So every time there was a break, my first divorce, I was 22. And my most recent divorce was just 2.5 years ago. So I've been going through these like purges that felt like death because of this initial imprint. And the pharmaceuticals were only able to help me tolerate staying in situations where I was being abused, where it was toxic, where it was not good for me. So it numbed me and kept me alive in that structure, but it didn't free me from the abuse. It didn't improve my health. In fact, it made my health way worse, put on weight, lost sex drive. Although some of those things I think were more to the point my body knew I was with somebody who was absolutely revolting, even though my mind didn't. And it helped me get sick, like very, very sick. The symptoms and the withdrawal of going off pharmaceuticals. I do have one recommendation. If anybody is contemplating going off an SSRI or an SSNI, as I've been withdrawal off of both, and I've done it many times through my life at this stage. I've done it the quick cold turkey. Don't ever do that. Do not ever do that. I've done it the recommended doctor way of titrating the 6 weeks. Don't do that either, is my recommendation. My recommendation is to go slower than slow. So the last time that I went off on my pharmaceuticals, which was in 2022, it took me at least 9 months. And I know a lot of people that they're on their like third or fourth year of slowly titrating. And that means like opening the capsule and taking out like 1 or 2 of the little micro balls and closing the capsule up and then staying at that dose for maybe a week. I was doing like 5, but I know people that are doing like 1 a month, and going that slow. That's why it's going to take them probably 5 years to get off of these. And the reason why I say that is because every single substance that I have gotten off, there has been withdrawal. That includes caffeine, that includes sugar. And each has its own challenges within the withdrawal. But the withdrawal of going off of pharmaceuticals is dangerous, okay? Because the brain chemistry has so been terribly altered on pharmaceuticals, particularly antidepressants, that it can cause severe withdrawal symptoms that can land you in a hospital. And can land you like having a lot of reactions. So I'm just throwing that in. Caffeine was a wonderful, oh my God, was so wonderful. Caffeine and kind of doing too much were like intertwined, because if you're really busy and you're go, then you're not sitting still and having to deal with your emotions. It's a way to avoid them, because if you're really focused on cleaning or painting or doing a project or working or, like working 60 hours on something, then you're not sitting in stillness and processing the emotions. You're not even recognizing your emotions. And so that's all intertwined with how we relate to other people, because if we repress our emotions, we're not communicating our emotions because we're scared to communicate our emotions, because we've never been in an environment where we could communicate our emotions without severe consequences. So we find all these tools to not have the emotions. So caffeine became like a constant, I'm up, I'm going, everything's okay, which also kind of ties into the whole philosophy in spiritual community, which is all bypass to bliss. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. I'm just going to have another cup of coffee and go. But that's not what's really happening, because the nervous system is still holding on to all of the the pain and the suffering. And so even within relationship and interaction, it's no wonder that coffee is the drug of choice in workplace, because one, it's socially acceptable, but two, it overrides your own body and your own emotions that say, I'm not happy here in this job, doing this thing for this many hours. I'm experiencing burnout. The coffee and the doing just overrides it. So we stay in workplace relational situations far longer than we should, because we're scared to break up and have rejection and walk away, right? So caffeine becomes the workplace drug of choice that keeps you going in society and, keep moving. Sugar is the everywhere drug of choice to keep your life just a little bit sweeter. I'm going to just swallow down the bullshit with this sweet, right? So we literally are swallowing down poison that tastes delicious. And that we do that for a multitude of reasons. I've done an entire playlist on food and sugar. Please go check it out if sugar happens to be one of your addictions, because the mind frame says, my life is bitter, my life sucks, I'm going to compensate by feeding myself sugar. And then what happens is your body goes into an inflamed state, which is being overweight. I don't necessarily believe in fat. It's not fat, it's inflammation. Your body is inflamed, which then blocks up your lymphatic system, which means your body can't flush itself of toxins, which then infiltrates every single organ, and you'll develop all kinds of conditions ranging from diabetes, which I had, to fibromyalgia because your body is inflamed and in pain, to sleep apnea because all your sinuses are inflamed and your neck is carrying too much inflammation, and so your ability to breathe properly. And we just keep doing it thinking it's harmless, which is an addiction. If you are carrying inflammation in your body and you're still eating sugar, your addiction is as bad as a cocaine addiction. And you're denying yourself that the foods that you're eating are really causing any of these problems because they're socially acceptable, right? And look at social situations. Let's go back how this all ties into the social world. When we celebrate, what do we celebrate with? Parties are full of pop or soda, as they call it in the States, or we always have a cake, right? A cake is the expression of something good has happened in our lives. So we need to eat this cake, or we need to eat these sweets, bowls upon bowls of sweets at celebratory events. So social interactions then get intermingled with sweets, which excites you. Right? Your brain chemistry, again, has been hijacked and moved into an unnatural state of excitement. And kids get running around all over the place. Because this is what it is to be social. So that when you go to a social event and you say, sorry, I don't eat sugar, it really eliminates a lot of food. Which is one of the reasons I don't go to a lot of social events, because there's just sugar everywhere. There's alcohol everywhere. There's smoking everywhere. There's party drugs everywhere. And I personally got into cannabis when it became legal in Canada, as a means to help me with my PTSD. And because I had developed PTSD when certain relationships started breaking down. Primarily my best friend of 20-something years left my life, and I've never heard from her again. And then my marriage was beginning to break down, and my mother, I went no contact with my mother. So all of those relationships had me in that little childhood mind frame of, I'm going to die without people. I'm going to die without these people, but these people I have identified, they cannot stay in my life because they themselves are toxic. I'm recognizing this. So I started developing severe PTSD symptoms because I was also off the pharmaceuticals and the other things that had previously. So I had started doing cannabis in and around 2020, and it quickly morphed into an addiction because I was letting go of all the other addictions. I'd let go of smoking. I'd let go of drinking. And it too quickly became an addiction to numb. And I was getting things done. And I was still, this, that, and the other until things went bad. Until things went very, very bad in 2023. And at that point, with everything that was going on, I needed to be in absolute hypervigilance again. I needed to go back. Hypervigilance actually saved my life because this is around the time that a lot of my spiritual gifts were coming online, which I think cannabis opened me too quickly. And also the sacred medicines opened me far too quickly. So I don't recommend either. Go slow. Go slow. Trust me. You don't want to be dealing with spiritual warfare. When you open the door and rip down the veil, dividing spirit, and you're not ready, and you're not grounded, and you're not prepared, and you're not shielded, you will invite in some dark shit. So I don't recommend either of those. And then at the same time, all this spiritual stuff is happening to me, and the Kundalini is raging through my entire body. I get a confession that destroys my brain, and I have basically a nervous breakdown because I discovered that my entire marriage was a lie, that I'd been cheated on, but most importantly that my ex had molested 3 children when he was young, and when he had gone to court, he perjured himself. So again, I mentioned justice. Justice autism kicked in, and I was like, I lost my mind. I literally lost my mind for a period of time. I'm still trying to piece together what happened to me in 2023. That time period was, so I quit pot cold turkey because I need to know what's going on, because I don't know if this man is trying to kill me, or I don't know if, the spirit kingdom is trying to kill me. I was scared. I don't mean just scared. And then on top of it, I was in chronic pain with a misdiagnosed condition in my mouth, as well as the fact that I was in a legal battle. It was a clusterfuck extraordinaire. Absolutely. So I was like, I need to be aware what is happening like this. So I quit pot cold turkey. And that meant when that went, I had nothing to help me interact with other humans at all. And my hermit stage really kicked into gear. So May 2023 is when my life became I had no friends that I was going and seeing. It became very insular and isolated, and my monkdom began because I was learning what it was to be sober, to be clean, to be without any substances, including gluten, including dairy, including all of these things that I had quit as a means to save my life, without question. And that clarity, getting off the pot, gave me the clarity to be able to catch my ex, who was love bombing the shit out of me, in another lie, and be able to go no contact. And then that withdrawal went through. So just the withdrawal of people, okay, the people that you had finally thought, okay, these are my people. These people are safe people. These people I can trust. So when I had found people that I wasn't scared of, oh my God, I love these people. These are my people. These are my, but because I was still in a consciousness of my own toxicity, I was enmeshed in dysfunctional relationship. It wasn't healthy connection, because this isn't healthy. This is not healthy. This is codependent, which is its own addiction, which is the addiction of brain chemistry. Your own brain chemistry becomes hijacked, as I've mentioned. And in so doing, when you break free from these types of relational situations, the withdrawal, bar none the worst. Bar none the worst. So yesterday, I went at age 53 to a festival, totally clean, totally sober. without sugar or caffeine or any other chemically inducing or altering substances at all. Unmasked. It was weird. It was weird. It was weird. It was good, but it was weird. I felt a little bit like outside of myself. Like I wasn't fully in myself. I was kind of like here is where I was. So I took my shoes off, which helped a lot. And it was a big, big, huge property, big, gorgeous property. And there were all these different stages nestled in little nooks and crannies and tents and people. And, it was nice because it was spread out. It was also nice because there was trees everywhere, which was very grounding. And so I walked around all day barefoot. And I was very blessed to go with a friend I hadn't seen since 1999. She got in touch with me because I had the extra ticket. And there's a funny story with that. But anyways, it was great. It was great to see her. She wasn't, drinking, and she wasn't smoking, and she wasn't doing any of these things. So it was very helpful. Had I been around somebody who had been smoking, that would have been challenging, or somebody who was doing shrooms or something, that would have been challenging as well. But so her and I, totally sober, went about our day, and it was absolutely lovely. I managed to talk to strangers and people, and that was fabulous because being in other people's energy and not losing myself at all. I participated in some yoga, and I participated in some movement, danced and laughed, and it was a lovely event. I did leave early because I kind of was peopled out after, I guess, about like 8 hours. I was like, nah. I would have liked to have been more in me as opposed to kind of like mildly disassociated, kind of like here, just kind of like it's like one eye was kind of watching and in hypervigilance, but the other half of me was present and enjoying. It also felt weird to be at an event where I wasn't under the influence of alcohol or substances, so I wasn't like in like a forced state of ecstasy of like, yeah, party. Like it wasn't like over the top. It was very subtle and like, oh, I can relax into this. I can dance to the music. There was this one guy that was one set that played that was this Persian group that were playing the most awesome instruments. It was really kind of like belly dancey kind of vibe. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm really enjoying it. So yes, that was my day yesterday, which is a monumentous accomplishment. And I'm going to tap myself a little bit on the back. I'm really kind of in awe today because, it's hard enough to quit any one of those things, but to quit all of those things in 6.5 years and completely do a U-turn on your life and become a completely different human it's unbelievable. It's like, what? It's unbelievable. So I'm going to be integrating this for a little bit because I'm a new person now. And I have a little bit of hope in me that I'll be able to take my October trip. I do have a trip booked. But this entire way, I'm like, if I lose all that money, so be it. I'll just accept that maybe I can't go because, this PTSD that I've been trying to fight, or I guess complex post-traumatic stress disorder is more accurate, that I've been trying to deal with for the last forever, it feels like, has had me in a state of doubting whether I'd be able to go or not. But in the last year, I've managed to move 3 times. I've managed to get my driver's license for the first time in my life. I've managed to go to a festival, which has blown my mind that I've been able to do it totally sober and clean. And I managed to do a long distance drive to go visit my son. I have managed and will continue to manage to regulate my nervous system on a daily basis and heal and integrate and change and alter. And I'll keep doing that. So that gives me August, September, that gives me 2 full months to fully get myself to a place where I can go on my own to the airport on a plane to Croatia and be in a company of a small group of professional people to learn under Gabor Mate. So that is my rowing from California to Hawaii, and I have 2 months to get this. This is the problem. Get this where it needs to get, to have enough fear purged out of my nervous system, that little girl nervous system that's shaking and thinking people equal dying, so that I can do it. So please pray for me and celebrate with me. And if you need help getting rid of the addictions that you use because of the traumas that nobody has validated for you, please book a one-on-one with me or join the Spiritual Warrior Support Group Google Meet meetings on Wednesday or Friday. Please hop over to my new website. There's something else I managed to do this year, is make a website at theummovement.com and check out the services, check out the events, check it out, and give me some feedback if you want. I'm not a website designer, but my friend and I designed it. There we go. So always stepping into the new, always saving ourselves, because freedom is where I'm going. And eventually I'm going to legally change my name to that. I just don't want to take on the paperwork right now. Maybe after I finish my 100 days of chill the fuck out, which is coming up. I'm on my last 28 days. 28 more days to chill the fuck out. And then September is going to go buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. That's what Spirit's telling me anyways. In what way? I don't know. But if you're in person, I now run in-person circles. There's also a new thing on full moon. Just had one last week. So new beginnings, new integration, new socialization from a new nervous system. I'm sending everybody all my love. Mwah. Peace in.